Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So welcome. Thank you for coming to our NYCPM January program webinar. Obviously, we're going to be discussing NYCPM's January program during this webinar. With us, we have a few students who are helping, obviously give this presentation. These were all January students, and I'll go ahead and let you guys introduce yourself, from left to right.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Cindy El-Somare. I am a second year student. I started as a January class in 2020, actually. I was the first pandemic class. And honestly, it's been great so far. So I am happy to share my experience with you today.
Hi, my name is Amanda Varveras. I'm a third year student, also a January student. And I'm really excited to introduce you guys to this program because I really feel like it's been a benefit for me. So I'm really excited to get this started.
What's going on, everyone? My name is Trevo, more commonly known as Trey around NYCPM. I also started with Amanda as a January student, so I'll definitely be able to answer any questions and share my insight.
Thanks, guys. So I'm just going to start with what is the January program, right? So we are actually the only podiatric medical school to have a January start in general, which is pretty great. And basically what that means is it takes your entire first year worth of classes that you normally take in 2 semesters or in two terms, and it spreads it out amongst 3 instead of the 2. So it's a slower transition into medical school, right? And you get you join the rest of your class in the fall, and you'll just have a lighter course load than the rest of your peers. So the general curriculum of a podiatric medical college are about from NYCPM's curriculum. In your first 2 years, you take your preclinical sciences, and you'll start with clinical sciences as well, and you take your first board exam. In your third year, you start with your clinical rotation. So you'll rotate at our foot clinic that we have attached to our campus, as well as some of the hospitals in the New York City area. And then in your fourth year, you do externships and you do clerkships, as well as you take your second board exam. So like I said, it takes all of those, the January program takes all the classes that you would be taking in your first year, and it spreads it out amongst 3 terms instead of 2. So I'm going to pass this along to the students to kind of talk about the more specifics of the curriculum.
Okay, so in the first term, which you would be starting obviously in January, you'd be taking bacteriology, general anatomy with a lab, and neuroscience. And in term 2, which you would start in September with your peers that are coming in the September class, you would join them and you would take biochem, cell biology and histology, genetics, and physiology. And then term 3, you'd be taking medical ethics, immunology, molecular biology, and physiology. So as you can see, it's a lot less credits per term. So for example, in term 2, you'd be only taking 15 versus 18. And in my personal opinion, the biggest benefit is your term 3, which is your August and September students' second term. There's a big difference. You're only taking 11 credits versus 21 credits that they're taking. So if you look at term 1, like the biggest class there is general anatomy and lab, which is 7 credits. And your peers will be taking that very big class, 7 credits, with I believe 5 other classes in term 3. Whereas, you'll have the luxury of not having to take that huge course with those classes. So in this way, it kind of really spreads it out, and you can get acclimated to the medical school environment by having it, spread out. It's also a good way to kind of, even, boost your GPA in these first 3 terms.
So how do you feel like you academically benefited from the January program?
Maybe I can say a few words for that. So in term 1, you'll notice we'll be taking general anatomy. That had helped us and most of my January class tremendously in term 2, our term 2, with cell biology and histology, and genetics and in histology, like physiology. Like we had that kind of like 1 foot ahead of everyone else by having general anatomy already done. The rest of the class won't be taking general anatomy till term 3. So for us, that was a huge benefit, at least for me. I was a non-traditional student. I have had a long time between my undergrad and going back to podiatry school. So having the background with less classes in the January class had helped me so much in doing so well so far in my education. Bacteriology is another one. It will help you so much having bacteriology in that term 1. I don't know, it just sets the foundation for almost every other class. It just knowing bacteriology very well ahead of time will just, I know for me at least, I know just like I did so much better in immunology and in genetics just by having that bacteriology background. The same for neuroscience. Neuroscience is only 3-credit class, but it's heavy on like memorization and thinking. Everyone else would be taking neuroscience and general anatomy in term 3 on top of immunology, which is another like big class. So it was a huge benefit. I'm not going to lie. I felt like I had during first year in term 2 and term 3, being a January student, we had a head start of everyone.
Then for myself, I don't think it'd be much different from what Amanda or Cindy said. The obvious benefits would be kind of being eased into the program, getting a few of the tougher classes under your belt before having a full schedule worth of classes, really being able to like lock in and learn how to learn at the professional school level with as much detail and with as much content that they want you to know. So being able to really take the time and get yourself to the level that you need to perform well. The January program really allows you to do so. At the risk of sounding like a broken record, yes, like it obviously helps you very academically, but in the school environment itself, it allows you to get to learn the staff, get to know the deans, get really used to the school before you start as a full-time student in August. So if you choose to get involved, or if you want to join clubs, or if you want to just, get your name out there, start the networking early, become friends with people that are in classes above you because they really help you get through the program. Being in the January program really allows you to have that time to form those connections early, so that when the rest of the class starts in August, you kind of already had hit the ground running. You already have sort of like stuff to lean back on to help you get through that term 3, which is like kind of like the first semester for everyone else. But outside of that, yeah, it's just like being able to come in early and get, especially anatomy under your belt, and take the time and, really learn it, really learn all the courses. It helps with, the courses going in the future and everything too. So.
Which brings us to some of those non-academic advantages, right? So you don't have to wait until the fall to start your studies. So that's a timing thing. For some people, it's better to start in the fall. Some people don't want to wait as long, right? So that's personal. But you don't have to wait if you don't want to. You get additional time to acclimate to NYC in general. New York City is a massive city. So if you're coming from, if you're moving or something, again, that slower transition helps into the city as well, if that is something that causes you any stress. And same thing, additional time to acclimate to NYCPM. It's a friendlier transition into medical school, right? A lighter course load. You really get your feet underneath you before you really hit the ground running in your second year. And you have more opportunities to get involved in school activities and research. And our next slide talks all about, school activities and extracurriculars and stuff. But can you guys talk about some of those non-academic advantages that you gained from the January program? I know Trey mentioned a few, but can we, build off of that a little bit?
Yeah, I can add something. I know that first break that we get between the January semester after that one ends and the next start in September. That's the longest break you'll ever get in podiatry school. Use that wisely. You will be a podiatry student at that point and get your foot in with podiatrists around or do research. What I did is I did that entire summer, I did research. I was able to get my name on a publication and did a podium presentation at a national meeting and podiatry related. And then I think we did 3 or 4 poster presentations as well. So use that summer wisely as a podiatry student, and you will have enough time to do something, to achieve actually something. It's not like a 3-week break that you cannot really do any kind of research. It's a longer stretch of a break and it's going to be the longest for you. I was able to do meaningful research and get things published and out and presented in that time. I felt I was really lucky to be able to do that as a podiatry student and not as a pre-med student. So that long break in the summer is amazing for research, doing research.
And also to add on to that as well, sometimes the clubs, for every club we elect student representatives. And so we usually, for most clubs, will elect a 2000, like for example, this year was January 2026. So those students were able to elect student representatives for each club. And so it's kind of a way to jump the gun and you can already get positions in clubs and your fall students haven't even started yet. So just like another way, there are so many great clubs at the school and there are so many positions. So I always feel that NYCPM has so much to offer in terms of student activity. So it's a great way to kind of start early.
Very true. We also at NYCPM, we offer a dual degree program where you're able to get your master's in public health at the same time as you get your doctorate of podiatric medicine, right? And so you get 2 degrees at the same time, while you're in medical school. That's not a small feat. So that lighter course load that you are taking, it also gives you more time to complete the other degree, right? So a lighter course load, if you want to add other classes onto it, that's up to you guys, right? But the Master's in Public Health is a really great opportunity in general. It's a great dual degree program that we have. So we offer that in conjunction with Mount Sinai. There's a lot of different ways you can go about the MPH. There's a lot of different concentrations there. I always explain it as just kind of like the macro view of medicine, right? If you are more interested or if you have any interest in the greater implications of what you are doing on a day-to-day basis, that hands-on stuff that you're doing, this is something to consider. One of our dual degree students right now, her name is Rebecca, and she says that it allows her a unique perspective of medicine that's not only going to make her more desirable for residency programs, but it's also going to benefit her future patients. Because again, she's going to have a different perspective of what she's doing. Not everybody gets that. So it is something to consider. And like I said, you will have more time to complete it, which is great. We touched a little bit on some of the clubs as well. Amanda, you seem well-versed. Can you speak about some of our clubs and national organizations?
Yeah, sure. So some clubs, as you can see, that are listed here are the Sports Medicine Club, Diabetes Club, Asian American Students Club, Hispanic Club, International Podiatric Club, and there are just countless. I'm a member of the Sports Medicine Club, and I recently went to the Public Health Club's first meeting last month, and it was so exciting. We have a lot of great attendings and professors that really want to get students involved in volunteerism and research. So I think that if you'll find a club that's for you. Like there are so many great opportunities. I know that several clubs do mission trips, which everyone's very excited. I'm not sure I don't think we've been able to go because of COVID lately, but everyone's very excited about the upcoming mission trips that are going on with several of the clubs. I think there's multiple of them that are happening. So there's just, a lot of great clubs to get involved in. And I'm also, as you can see, there are a lot of ways to get publications at the school. So we have a student-run journal called the Podiatric Medical Review, PMR. Last year, I served as a peer editor on the PMR, and this year I'm senior editor. So this is it's just another great way show leadership skills and to get involved in research, and you can write articles with your friends, which is like the best part. You learn together.
Cindy, what extracurriculars are you involved in?
I'm so into research, as you know. So I'm into the research club. We just opened it this semester, so it's new. So also, if you're interested in something, you can definitely try to talk to people. Faculty are so supportive. You will definitely find a person or two to help you get up and start a new club. So the research club is a new club that I'm a part of. Also part of the public health club, as well as the sport medicine club. They all have fun activities, and it's a good way to connect with your peers. I think connecting with your peers is a key to succeeding in any medical school. It's a teamwork. Honestly, you don't get anywhere without having a good support system, and being part of these clubs also puts fun part to it. And having as a team, having a common goal is a really good thing as well. So yeah.
Trey, what about you?
It's very fun.
Trey, I see that you're in the photo at the New York City Triathlon. So you obviously volunteer a little bit, but what other extracurriculars are you involved in?
Yeah, that triathlon event was with the Sports Medicine Club. That was the first club I ever joined when I joined as a January student. And I started as a class rep for the Sports Medicine Club, and I'm still a class rep now in my third year. But outside of that, I'm also in ACFAS Club, which is a surgery club. I'm also the president of the Student National Podiatric Minority SNAPMA, Student National Podiatric Medical Association, which is, for all intents and purposes, the national minority club for podiatric students. I also was the class of 2024 president for our first year, and I now serve as the school government association president, which comes with a lot of events and opportunities and things like that. Also, I'm in the student wellness committee, which I helped get the ground off of, get started up in terms of recruiting different members and deciding kind of who's going to be a part of it. And I'm kind of the person that's all around NYCPM. I don't really think that I'm like in one.
I was about to say, you're only involved in a few things. I never see you around.
Ambassador. I do it all. So, yeah, but it all started with the January program for sure.
So we do have student housing available. It is the Bridges. We do our leases by year, right? So it's not required by any means that people live here, but it is available. It helps with the transition, right? The New York City housing market can be a little intense. It's 100% doable. I did it, right? But it can be easy, to not have to worry about that, especially with the transition into medical school or maybe moving to a new city. So we do have the Bridges, which is available for you. It's about 2.5-3 blocks away from NYCPM. So very, very convenient. There's lots of different types of rooms depending on, price point that you want. You got laundry, right? Rooftop access. You have a gym. There's a lounge area, the study area. There's a big academic advantage to being there too. Being able to live with your peers and study with your peers, right? Group study in general is highly stressed here at NYCPM. We just find that groups can get through a lot of material quicker. So it'll be nice to live with peers and live with students as well. And utilities are included. It's all modern appliances. It's like elevated dorm living, so somewhere in between a dorm and your own apartment, right? So question for you guys: where did you live during your first year at NYCPM?
You want me to start?
Sure.
So I live in Long Island. I did not move to the city. I still commute from Long Island. I don't find it that bad, but I like to study while I'm on the train. So I kind of I have a guaranteed studying hour each day in the morning, and then in the afternoon, on my way home. But I do have a lot of friends who stayed at the Bridges at least during their first year, and it definitely helped them being knowing they were being on a safe environment close to the school while they got used to, studying, meeting new friends, getting to know the city, especially the ones that are not from the city. But yeah, for me, I commute from Long Island. I still do that. It's been 2 years. Yes.
Amanda, what about you?
Yeah, I'm also a commuter from Staten Island. So I pretty much drive in mostly every day, but as far exactly what was said before, my friends have lived at the Bridges and they all loved it. It's a great way to network with people and to get to know people. A lot of people after the first year will become great friends with someone, get an apartment on your own, but I've never heard any complaints about the Bridges, and I think that it's really convenient being so close to the school and walking distance, and it's safe, and so I think that it's a great alternative for living close to the school.
And then my first year, I commuted from Bushwick, Brooklyn. And yeah, it wasn't that bad though. I studied on the way. I think it was like 45 minutes from the subway.
Oh, that's not that bad.
No, it wasn't too bad at all. I just like studied on the way in and studied like on the way back home. After first year, I think I moved a little closer though. So.
Yeah, so as you guys can see, our students live all over the place, right? So some live in student housing, some commute from Long Island, Staten Island, Brooklyn. We've got people in the Upper East Side. We've got people in the Bronx. It just depends on what works best for you specifically, right?
So Samantha, I just wanted to ask you, because we had Loris ask a question. How does a person apply to the January program? Is it on the same site?
It is on the same site. Yes, we are going to go over the application procedure in just a moment. It is also through ACMAS. Yes. So another question for you January people. What was a typical day like in your first term, second term, third term, so on and so forth? We want to go in the same order. Cindy, would you like to start?
So first year classes start at 9. Granted, we're taking less classes, so we're not in school like 5 days a week. Like you are later on. I think we started as a Zoom class, but in a normal situation, I think it would be like 3 days a week, 3 or 4 days a week, we attend in-person classes. Start at 9. For a January student, most of the time you're like done with classes by 2 or 3. So it's almost never a full day, except for days where you have anatomy lab, general anatomy lab. That's when it depends on which group you'll be on, and that will be a full day being in school. General anatomy lab is like one of the most exciting and fun experiences you'll ever go through, full of a learning curve, and it was very enjoyable. You guys will love it. Other than that, I would usually take a break for a couple of hours after school, get dinner, kind of relax, and then get back on studying. I think one advice I would give to everyone who is interested in a January class, you will have more time, use it to get ahead and not to fall behind. It can be tricky sometimes having more time on your hand, like, oh, I have less classes, I have more time, I get off earlier than everybody else, so I'll study later on. It's great being in a January class to get ahead and to get a solid foundation, so try to use it very, very wisely. Yeah, that's how my day was. It's studying.
What about you guys? Did you do anything else differently on your typical day?
Likewise, I think our first term, Trey and I actually made it right before COVID. So we were in person for the first 2/3 of our first term. And so, yeah, you have anatomy lab once a week, and that's pretty much your only full day. Other than that, you're getting out early. Typically lectures are about 2 hours long. And I think you have general anatomy about twice a week, the lab once a week, and then the other classes once or twice a week, depending on the number of credits. And then second term, it's obviously more of a full schedule, not as full as your other classmates, but you may have class even 5 days a week, but you'd still probably get out, earlier, depending on when they had that other class you're not taking, bacteriology, I think. And then third term is kind of like this, and especially now when you're only taking 11 credits versus I think the 21 that they're taking, then it's a big difference, especially with the general anatomy not having that huge 7-credit class. And so I completely agree with what Cindy said. Make sure that you use your time wisely and use it to be doing little increments of studying every day. Don't think that you have too much time to spare and then kind of end up cramming, because that can sometimes, it depends on your study habits, but that can happen. But I just think that overall, I think the January program gives you so much more time to acclimate, which I think was the biggest benefit for me.
Yeah, they pretty much hit the nail on the head. I don't think I would say anything different. In the morning, I guess to be more specific, in the mornings I would get up, like class started at 9, so I would get up probably around like 6:30, eat, get ready for the day, review the lectures for the day, then be on the train to school by 8:15, have class at 9, usually done by, I don't know, 1, 2, something like that. I would go lift, work out, do something active, go play basketball, and then try to start studying by about like 5, 6, get a good amount of studying in per day, try to go to bed by like 10, 11, and then, wake up, do it again. So the days that we don't have classes, because you don't have class every day as a January student, I would try to mirror my day as if I did have class. So I would still try to get up early, and then I would try to study through like a kind of like a 9 to 5-ish schedule on whatever lectures we had the day before or were upcoming. Just like they said, a big theme is staying ahead and staying on top of your things, so you don't fall behind. That's like the biggest, fallacy that you can make in med school. It's procrastinating.
So obviously you guys had lighter course loads, right? So other than academic stuff, in your free time, did you ever, I know Trey was saying that he would do something active, so like lift or play basketball or something, but what else were you able to do with that extra time that other non-January students wouldn't normally be able to do or would struggle to fit into their schedule?
Well, for me, during the January course itself, especially it being Zoom at the time, I worked. I kept my job. I don't really recommend it for everyone, but I did. I kind of almost kept a full-time job at the time. I was able to do it. It was fun. It also kept me really busy. It kind of like helped me. Looking back at it, it was kind of borderline crazy to do, but it did help me stay on top of my studying as if I was a full-time student. Like I did not fall behind, because I knew whatever extra time that I had, I needed to use it to actually study. And you know what, during that summer as well, the long summer break that we had, I still worked, saved up money. I didn't quit my job until we started the September classes. I think halfway through, it's when I decided, I need probably more time to study. So yeah, you can definitely do something, work a day or two a week if you needed to, as I needed to at the time. It's definitely doable. It helped me stay on track, to be honest, helped me stay on track with timing, using all my extra time to study. I think that's why when we moved into second year and we started full-time, being a full-time student, I did not have any problem with the full study load. We're switched from just having 12 credit a semester just a couple of weeks ago to having 22 credits. And I was not one of those people that struggled with time management and having that full load, because I kept myself busy throughout the first year, even though we had a lighter load. So yeah, you can still do a lot of things with your time, as long as you're being productive and on top of your studying.
She's not lying, because I remember in TA sessions for anatomy, I would like see her background and it looked like she was in an office building, and I'd be like, "Hey, was Cindy working?"
I was at work the whole time.
I like specifically remember that. But to piggyback off what she said, you just have
you have more time to kind of just get into like lock in and get into the flow of things. So I wasn't necessarily like using my free time to like go have fun or like, enjoy the city or anything like that. But I was a non-traditional student as well. Like I took a few years off before I started. So my first term, I was kind of being anal about like figuring out what study methods worked for me. So I spent a lot of time outside of class, like watching videos, trying out practice questions, like speaking to other people, like just really, really jumping into those 3 classes that we had that first term, especially anatomy. I think I studied like way too much for anatomy, to be honest. It ended up helping, ended up working out really well. But just having that abundance of time in the first term really allows you to dig into those 3 classes, sort of in a way that you won't really be able to once you have the full plate of classes or once you have like a full schedule. So like being able to like learn myself, learn how I learn the best, learn like what isn't really efficient for me, just lock in and learn like what works best for Trey, the student, is kind of like what I use my free time in the first term for.
Yeah, they pretty much said it all. I would just add that I also kept a part-time job. For me, it was part-time in my first term that I had in undergrad, and it kind of helped me as well, kind of keep track of my time management. In terms of other things, of course you have like more downtime to do, I guess, fun things and things that, like are relaxing. But also like I shadowed during that time too, which like I feel like I don't necessarily have as much time to do that now. But during, those terms where we had more downtime, I tried to, reach out to podiatrists, see if I could just come in for the day and like learn something for a couple of weeks, which was really cool. So, you can use your time wisely. But also, as Trey was saying, I like discovered what my study habits were. I feel like if you're thrown into a heavier course load, you might not have as much time to like actually see am I a visual learner? Am I do I do well when I listen to people? So I discovered that I do really well when I listen to lectures 3 times and take notes. So, I would have maybe had the time to do that had I, been thrown into a longer course load. But now I know that's how I study well. So I make the time with the heavier course loads to, make sure that I know I have to do this. So I make sure that I'm on top of it. So it's a great way to like learn how and like how to study and how to get by.
That's a good point. Actually, almost every single student that I've spoken to has said during their first semester that they needed to reevaluate their study habits, right? Obviously, NYCPM is going to help you and support you through that, right? We do have a lot of ways that we do that, but it is inevitable, right? You're having to absorb much more material than you've ever needed to, and you have to master it. You really do have to master it because you put it in practice, right? So that's a good point. Giving yourself a little bit more time to figure out what is actually going to work for you when you do hit that 22 credit semester. That's a massive advantage for sure. Okay, so Cindy, I know you already gave a little bit of advice, but does anyone else have more advice that they would give to somebody who's considering the January program?
In terms of choosing January versus August?
In terms of whatever, I don't know, you are a January student.
You're deciding
what you want to know.
If you're deciding if you want to be a January student or not, kind of ask yourself, why not? I think the benefits like far, far, far outweigh any sort of con or any sort of negative that you can possibly think of. I mean, like to be able to start medical school before your class, be able to take some of those classes before they all get there at a slower pace, be eased into the program.
At the same price.
Yeah, at the same price, and still, be not compared against them, but I mean, your GPAs are all lumped together. So, I mean, being able to take, anatomy by itself through one term versus someone that took it with 5 other classes, in, their second ever term in med school, you have a little bit of an advantage there. So whenever I speak to people on tours or whenever they ask me about it, my first question is why not? And if it's not something like, oh, I'm still finishing my undergrad program, or like, oh, I want to make a little bit more money before I start, then I tell them they should probably consider it. Every single fall student that I speak to they say once they like actually learned what the January program was, and if they had the time and the availability to do so, if they could have remade their decision, they would have probably chose a January program. So definitely consider it if you have the opportunity to, if you have the time to start, because it's only going to come back and help you tenfold. Yeah.
I completely agree. I actually had originally submitted my application as a fall student, and I had lunch with one of the, at the time, second year students, and they said it's difficult even as a January student, because even though you have a lower course load, the courses are still very difficult. You know, you really have to take your time and really know the information. So they had said that it's even hard in January. So I changed my mind and I asked to be part of the January program, like the next, like when I had gotten accepted. And it was like the best decision I ever made. And also, like, not that you don't form bonds with the fall students, you do, but it's also nice. It's, you know, you kind of get an extra however many months, like 6 months, 9 months with a certain subset of students. So it's a better way to network with them as well. And I just think in all, the benefits of the January program are, I can't say enough. I think 100% everyone should do it if they can.
Yeah,
Also-
I'll add to what Amanda, I'm sorry, do you want to go in?
Yeah, really quickly. Also, you take anatomy with the class before you. So to jump off of like what Amanda was saying, you form really good connections, not only with like the other kids that are in your January cohort, but also the class ahead of you. And that really, really helps when you go to take the classes that they all already have taken. They, you know, they're ready to share resources. They're ready to tell you how to get through the class successfully, how to get an A, what the professor likes, what the professor doesn't like. And, you know, you become friends with them. It's as if you're in their class, even though you're the class below them. So again, like that, forming that network connection is really, really strong. And it's a huge point if you join the January program.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll agree with both of them. I'm just going to add like one tiny little thing. I'm the same. I got accepted to the fall. I was accepted to the class of 24, and I deferred to the January of 2025. And I have never regretted that decision, ever, not even once. It was probably the best decision. It kind of like formed the good student that I am today. Probably if I had to started at that September class, maybe I would have been overwhelmed with the load of classes. And just to, I agree with Trey, what we just said, having taken classes, especially the general anatomy with the upperclassmen, helped us a lot because we got so much guidance from them on all of the other classes we're taking later. Like they knew us better because we were taking all these classes with them, like the 2 classes, general anatomy and neuroscience, and they helped us with everything else. We were just like 25 kids and they helped us a lot. So it was really good. So we appreciate you guys.
Okay, so now I'll talk a little bit about the application procedure and just submissions in general. So you apply through ACMAS. I'm not going to read that whole thing out. It's ACMAS. The application deadline is November 30th. Like they said, they were admitted for the fall. You can always, if you were to apply for the fall, you could always defer until the next January as well, or just apply for the next January, right? So even the November 30th deadline, I mean, that is the deadline for this upcoming January, right? But it does not mean that your chances are over. Our average MCAT is going to be about a 496, GPA overall about 3.2, science about 3.0. We need 3 letters of recommendation, and our prerequisite courses are pretty standard as far as medical schools go, right? So chemistry 1 and 2 with labs, biology 1 and 2 with labs, organic chemistry 1 and 2 with labs, physics 1 and 2 with labs, and English as well. Just some important dates if you were thinking about applying for the January program this upcoming January. Right, like I said, the application is due at the end of November. The housing application you would want to fill out as soon as possible. It's just a Survey Monkey, so it's pretty easy, pretty quick. You would move in like mid-December-ish, and then orientation is going to be January 3rd and 4th, and the first day of classes is January 5th, right? So it's coming up, right? I'm pretty excited about it. Your term 1 ends in May 5th, and then you get that big break that they were talking about as well. So from May 5th until August 11th, you get a summer break, which you never really get the rest of your time at NYCPM. And then you would join the rest of your class in the fall with our welcome cruise, which is really fun. So at the beginning of every fall, before the classes start, we have a welcome cruise. You go around Manhattan, go see the Statue of Liberty up close, and then you just it's like a mixer, right? You meet the new students. If you're a January student, you'll meet the rest of the people in your class. You'll meet the faculty, you'll eat, you'll drink, you'll listen to music, and you just kind of hang out and enjoy the views. So that's really fun. Your white coat ceremony is going to be with the rest of your class in the fall as well. So in mid-August, and then you would begin term 2. Okay, does anyone have any questions for me from an admissions perspective, from any of our students from a student perspective? Obviously, now's the time. No. Okay, last chance students, do you have anything else that you want to add before we end this webinar? No. Cool. Well, then we will go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you, Cindy, Amanda, Trey. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. I feel like I even learned a lot about the January program, so that was great. I really do appreciate it. I think we might have a question in the Q&A. The advanced standing application is not through ACMAS. That is, you can email me specifically. I'll go ahead and put, can I put my email? I'll just say my email out loud. Email me. I'm pretty sure I've actually already spoken with you before. My email is SSHOB as in boy, ER @nycpm.edu. If you go onto our website or anything too, my email is going to be on there. So you can just contact me, or you can just email enrollment@nycpm.edu, and I'll give you some more information about the advanced standing program. Okay, if that's all, you guys are all free to go. Again, thank you so much for coming, and enjoy the rest of your night.